Oh, so the banker. So these are two guys, two black bankers. That was a phenomenal film, but here's the problem that I had with the bankers. Anthony Mackie is not a good actor, and he went to Juilliard. Two black bankers, Fair Housing Act. Fair Housing Act. They kicked this thing off. This movie came out in 2020. I don't even know how I missed it. I feel so bad, but it's on Apple TV. It's on Apple TV. These are the brothers. Where are they? Where they at? Where they at? This is one of them. What were their names? Joe and Bennett. So this was the end result. This is the end result. Okay. This was a phenomenal movie. Okay, so Bernard Garrett and Joe Morris. Samuel L. Jackson plays, I believe he plays Joe. And Anthony Mackie plays Bernard. Listen, the sad reality I had to come to is Anthony Mackie is not a very good actor. I don't know why. Anthony Mackie went to Juilliard. And watching his scenes with Samuel L. Jackson, it's like, holy, this guy's not good. Now either Samuel he was in the pocket this entire movie, or he was just playing himself. I don't know what it was. But watching these two interact on screen, it was like, who thought it was not a good idea to cast Anthony Mackie in this. But anywho, these guys, so Bernard, one of the first early black real estate guys in LA. The Irishman, I forget his name, gave him his first start. He's like, we're going to do 50-50 partnership, but I be the face, but we split everything 50-50. He helps him with the phones, finds he does all the legwork, takes the pictures of the properties, goes scouts the property, rates the properties, evaluates all the stuff, right? He knows his stuff, but the Irishman had to be the face of it. And it was the Irishman that gave him a chance because he, in the movie, he's like, I understand this world's not fair and how they treated me, and I'm just, trying to give you a shot. He's like, we're 50-50, but I be the face. So they're in the midst of just killing it. The Irishman dies in his sleep. The Irishman's wife doesn't want to be in business with Barnett. So she's like, I'll buy the rest. I'll buy you out for pennies on the dollar. He has no choice because guess what? Barrett's name is on none of the paperwork. Okay. Barrett ends up going to a club. He meets Joe. Joe is a old school hustler. He had money. He knew what to do with his money. Owned a nightclub and had 17 properties. He takes a liking to Barrett. So on and so forth. Barrett goes to the bank to try to secure a loan. They're not having it, and he has the idea of why not just buy the building that the bank sits in. He goes to Joe with the idea. Joe is like, man, you crazy. Okay, how are you going to do this? And they come up with the idea to use one of Barrett's workers, right? Because he has property, and he's rehabbing the property. This old white lady's like, I don't want you in my property. No. And one of his workers was played by Nicholas Hoult. So they hire the white boy to be the face of the real estate company. They teach him how to play golf. They teach him how to knife, food, spork, salads, all that. Teach him fine dining. They teach him the mathematics behind valuations and how they measure, how you come up with a cap rate when it comes to real estate. They teach him everything. The white boy's sharp. He memorizes. He learns it. They send him. Joe sets him up with a golf match with the building's landlord, the owner of the building. They hit it off. They have dinner. They go to the meeting. They're back and forth the numbers. And mind you, all the things he's hitting the guy with, and this guy doing crunching the numbers. He memorized everything. So Barrett taught the white dude, hey, this is what he's going to say. When he comes with this number, this is the formula you repeat back to him. So he knew this word for word how this conversation was going to go, and any pushback he's going to give him, like, this is what you say, just in case. He kills it. They get the building for $1.8 million. Joe's banker out of San Francisco is a Jew. He's like, I'll pay. I got you. Just get the building for under $2 million. Barrett's like, I'll get it for under $2 million. This is a cold ass movie. So then they get the building, and then because they see all where the property is, these guys are responsible for basically turning LA to either mixed or black neighborhoods. These guys did that. They're the original gentrifiers, right? So then Barrett's from Texas. He goes back home to visit his folks. He's walking his son down the street, and he wanted to get his shoe shine. And he's like, no, can't do blacks, only whites. And it's in front of this particular bank. So then Barrett has the idea to buy this white bank in Texas. Now this shit will work in California, but this is Texas. So they get the white boy, crunch the numbers, get him up to speed, go in there and secure the deal. Because they keep asking, well, who is these guys, Barrett, Bernard, Garrett, and Joe Morris? Oh, those are my financial partners. Why aren't they here? Well, they got other deals, blah, 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 blah. So they've been on all the paperwork from the beginning. So they bought the first bank, Mainland. Is it Mainland? And they're running it. White boy gets married. Oh, no. After they secured the building in LA, white boy gets married, right? And they promised him to bring him on as a partner when they buy another bank. Up until then, they're paying him as a worker to be the face of the company, right? They bring Joe and Bernard all the books every night to make sure everything is up to par. So then they go to buy the bank in Texas. They get the first bank. Cool. It's the second bank with the shoe shine boy where Bernard is like, no, I want to show him a lesson. I'm gonna teach him a lesson. And by buying the bank, right? Nonetheless, the bank owner's son has 25% of the bank. He's like, well, who are these two guys? Why aren't they here? He's scared. He doesn't trust the whole thing from the jump street. Nonetheless, they sign off on it in an agreement because the white boy's like, hey, listen, if y'all don't bring me on as a partner, I need to go back to LA because my wife doesn't like it here. You guys promised me a partnership if we bought another bank. And then Joe and Bernard are like, man, this white boy trying to strong arm us. We're not ready to buy another bank right now. We're kind of tapped out. But nonetheless, they move money around. They get the bank. Let the white boy run the bank, even though he's not a banker. He's been in the banking thing for 3 months. And of course, they have his wife working there as one of the maids to kind of keep an eye on the white boy because, whatever, they don't trust him. And then the whole juxtaposition between Bernard and Joe. Joe is an old school hustler. He's like, I don't trust white folk. I say, hey, some of them are my good friends, but I know when it comes to business with white folk, there's always something extra. So that's why I don't get moved. I'm not surprised when things go left. Bernard is like, he's all about meritocracy. Well, if I work hard, if logically, then this should work out. So he's an idealist. Okay. So the son of the banker that sold the bank to Bernard and Joe that still retained 25% ownership, right? He's like, all these loans being thrown out. Why? I mean, all these loans being issued out. Who are these loans going to? So their mistake was giving out too many loans to too many black people all at once. That was their mistake. Because as soon as they secured that bank, they went to all the black businesses and all the black families. They held a meeting at the church. And they told all the pastors, say, hey, we're looking for good, respectable, responsible people that are going to pay these loans back. But we're looking to help, spread the wealth, shore up, black businesses, and get our people, on an even playing field. So all the pastors went out to the church's congregation, spread the word. They gave out too many loans too soon. Florence is the son that owes 25%. He saw that. So what he ended up doing was he went to every address where those loans were given to, and he realized they were all black. So then he shows up at Bernard and Joe's. Bernard bought the house that he grew up in Texas. So the white dude shows up there. Of course, the white boy's there too as well because they're going over plans, whatever. So the dude shows up. He's like, hey, all these loans you're giving out to black people, if my people find out, they're going to make a run on the bank. They're gonna make a run on the bank, and it's gonna collapse. And Bernard's like, well, we don't want that to happen. What do you want? Because it's gonna hurt you too. He said, hey, I just want to see, whatever the case may be. He walks out. So what ends up happening is the comptroller's office calls that bank, the white boys run and say, hey, we're going to come in and do an audit in about 60 days. So they got 60 days to get their books in order to make sure everything's straight, okay? And they pushed it up to 30 days. Comptroller guy walks in unannounced and gets the white boy by himself in the office. Joe and Barnett pose as a janitor and a driver trying to hear the conversation, and the white boy will walk off into the bathroom and they will advise them on what to respond to next. So what ended up happening was they had a bunch of loans with no limits. The comptroller seen and say, hey, what are all these loans with no limits? So banks, mid-sized banks, had a 20-year term limit. They were giving out 25-year limit, which is against the law, because for the size of the bank, they can only give out so many. 20 years is their cap. If they were a large bank, 25 would be the cap. So they threw in, so the white boy threw in a bunch of loans because he went to him for help. The white boy was going to the attorney that Bernard had set up, but that attorney was busy, and the white boy panicked trying to get the stuff done. He went to the white boy, Florence, thinking he was going to help him out. Florence threw in a bunch of loans with no limits. What else was the issue? There was no limits on those loans. And no term limits. It was 5 years instead of 4 years. So the comptroller got him caught up. And so then later on, they get shut down. They get arrested. The white boy testified against Joe and Bernard. He was looking at 50 years. He's looking at 50 years. So he went, and they gave him immunity to testify against the blacks, the brothers. So then Senator McClellan was like, hey, if you just come to my hearing and talk about all the evil, how we were able to skirt the laws, the banking laws, and, make me look good, then I'll give you guys the same immunity deal. Nobody goes to prison. So Bernard's like, I can't do that, because the whole reason we got into this was to create fair housing and, a fair practice for blacks and get blacks the same access to the monies that the white boys get. So he goes up there and holds up this, he said, you know why, blacks can't get this, because this outfit, this color, this uniform. And the whole Senate hearing goes ape shit. He's like, sir, you're out of line. You better you tread carefully. So at the end of the day, they went to federal prison for 2 years. They got out and they moved to the Bahamas. They got 2 houses in the Bahamas. How they were able to do that after all their monies got seized was because the night before the white boy was supposed to testify against them, he called Bernard and said, hey man, listen, can we talk? He said, hey, they're trying to give me 50 years. Bernard said, hey, do what you gotta do, but I need one favor. And the favor was, the white boy bought them 2 houses in the Bahamas for them to go to move to when they got out of prison. And that's what happened. 3 years later, we got the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Phenomenal movie. And I'm like, how did I miss this? This movie came out in 2020. It's on Apple TV. Phenomenal. How did I miss that movie? And once again, it just goes to show Anthony Mackie is not a very good actor at all.
What's your plan, Mr. Garrett?
How would you like to buy a bank?
What the hell do we know about banking?
Owning a bank is like owning the other side of the real estate business.
There's a few complexities you just left out.
Like what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not wake up black this morning? Because I'm pretty sure I did.
How long did I think they did. Okay, how long did was it? Joe Morris, Bernard. There we go. So, train a white frontman to pose as the owner. At one point, they had over 177 buildings, y'all. So this is what happened. So the white boy set up a a sale for them where they were able to get commissions and walk away with $189,000 in commissions on properties that was sold for like $971,000. And that's what they got him on, misapplying this commission here. So they ended up serving 9 months of a 3-year sentence at the Federal Correction Institution in Terminal Island, California. They were later pardoned by Lyndon B. Johnson. Now, they met him when he was vice president. Okay. When they were kicking ass in real estate, they met him as a vice president. Okay. But this was crazy, man. So let's see. Okay. Temporarily relocated to the Bahamas to pursue real estate investments, but struggled to secure banking charters due to their prior U.S. convictions. They eventually returned to the U.S. Bernard Garrett passed away on September 10th, 1999. Wow. Specifics regarding Joe Morris's later life and date of death are less documented. It was a great movie. It was a great movie. And I hate that I missed this 6 years ago.
Two black men legally beat America at its own money game. In the 1950s and 1960s, banks openly denied loans to black families. So Bernard Garrett and Joe Morris did something radical. They learned the rules better than the people enforcing them. Garrett was a mathematical prodigy. Morris was a master strategist. Using white frontmen, they bought what black men were never supposed to touch. Multiple banks and savings and loans in Texas, plus major buildings and properties from Los Angeles to the south. They didn't steal from banks. They owned them. They didn't cheat the system. They outperformed it. For years, they quietly redirected capital into black communities, while regulators ignored it, because the success didn't look black. Then it did. Federal investigations followed. Selective enforcement kicked in. Their empire was dismantled, not because they invented fraud, but because the moment black men used Wall Street's own playbook, it became a problem. Garrett went to prison. Morris was financially destroyed. This isn't ancient history.
Yeah, like I said, it was a great movie. Great movie. And this is their case right here. November 18, 1968. Yeah, convicted of willfully misapplying national bank funds insured by the FDIC in violation of 18 USCA subsection 656. They were charged in a 2-count indictment. The first count alleged a substantive violation of the statute. The second charge, a conspiracy to violate the statute in the same manner. Okay. So the statute applies to officers, directors, agents, or employers of such banks and to persons connected in any capacity with such banks. Appellants were not officers, directors, agents, or employees of the bank. The theory of the government is, however, that they were connected with the bank in the capacity contemplated by the statute. Thus, it is their connection with the bank which must be examined. They were the controlling stockholders of the First National Bank in Marlin, Texas. They purchased the stock, financed the purchase, and directed the stock be placed in the name of other persons and entities. Appellants are Negroes, and they determined, because of the possibility of racial prejudice in the small town of Marlin, that they should not appear of record as owners of the stock. There were 10,000 shares outstanding, and they purchased a total of 5,400 shares. Of those, 3,700 shares were placed in the name of a corporation owned by appellants, Republic National Finance Company, and 1,500 shares were placed in the name of a business associate under a trust arrangement. They then caused 4 of their employees and associates to be elected to the 7-member board of the directors of the bank. That was smart. Wow. Here we go. This is it. They arranged to increase deposits in the bank by $1 million. Garrett personally paid a $5,000 fee for a part of these deposits. The bank then purchased the mortgages for $970,000. It was like $971 and some change by a check payable to a title company. This was the full face amount of the mortgages being purchased. The seller of the mortgages then paid $189,186.04 to the Valley National Mortgage Company, a corporation owned by the appellates. This was their commission for these sales. This corporation in turn opened a bank account in Houston with Morris and Garrett as the only person authorized to draw on the account. One day later, they withdrew the entire $189,000 by a series of checks payable to cash or to one of or the other of them. Okay. So here we go. The proof is clearly adequate as to the three. One, the bank was a national bank and it was federally insured. Two, the evidence was sufficient to sustain the charge of a willful misapplication of bank funds. And three, the evidence was sufficient to sustain a specific intent to injure and defraud the bank as charged in the indictment. As controlling stockholders, they were in a fiduciary capacity with respect to the minority stockholders as well as to the bank. Yeah, I didn't know they got pardoned. So that was dope of Lyndon to do that. But once again, they met him when he was vice president. So, okay. All right, I'm out of here, man. They purposely buried that movie because right when they started promo for it out the blue, a Grape Case came out. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I remember a trailer for it and I never went back to look. And I literally was just on Apple TV, just out the blue and just seen it. I was like, oh, let me check this out. Is this the bank movie? And I was sitting there like, wow.